You're sitting in a courtroom, wearing the same rumpled suit you had on the night of your arrest. The air is heavy with the smell of old wood and cold betrayal. Across from you sits Samantha, the woman you promised to love, protect, and grow old with. She isn't here to defend you. She's here to point the finger. She places her hand on the Bible, swears to tell the truth, the whole truth. But you know she's lying. You know she hid those drugs in your trunk. You know she called the cops. You know she did it with her secret lover, Lillian Monroe. And the worst part? The jury believes her. That moment shattered Logan's life into two halves. At 26, Evans was a youth counselor in Charlotte, North Carolina, a man who believed in second chances. Day after day, he mentored teens, ran basketball games, and showed kids there was another path. But Samantha didn't believe in him. While she smiled and held his hand at dinner, she was planning his destruction with Lillian, the bold, street-smart nurse who distrusted men and hated the idea of Samantha being married to one. Together, Samantha and Lillian buried Evans under a mountain of lies, 15 years behind bars, and when Evans finally walked out of prison, he didn't come home to forgive. He came back to finish the story they'd started. Welcome to True Crime Intel. I'm Williams, and I want to thank you, my viewers, and especially my subscribers, for your amazing support as we keep improving and bringing you daily true crime stories, both told and untold. If you haven't already, please subscribe and join our community. Let's uncover the stories together. Before everything fell apart, Logan was just a good man trying to do right. He worked full-time at a youth center on Charlotte's East Side, mentoring teens, coaching basketball, and helping kids avoid the mistakes he once made himself. When Evans was 18, he'd been caught with a small bag of weed and a few pills. Nothing major, but enough to earn him 6 months in jail. He came out determined never to return. He got a job, took night classes, became a certified youth counselor, and turned his life into a message. He wasn't flashy. He chased no likes on social media. He wore the same 2 pairs of sneakers, drove a beat-up Nissan Altima, and still tipped his hat to the church ladies at the corner store. He had a calm voice, steady hands, and a heart bigger than himself. 3 years later, he shared that heart with Samantha. Samantha Logan was 28, a petite nurse assistant at Presbyterian Medical Center. Soft-spoken, neat, raised in a strict religious home where the Bible governed every choice and secrets were hidden in the cracks of silence. They met at a community health fair. She was giving out blood pressure screenings. He cracked a joke about his heart skipping a beat. She actually laughed. That laugh sparked something. They fell fast and hard. 2 months in, they moved in together. 6 months later, they married at a courthouse. No big ceremony, just rings, whispers of promises, and his sister and her cousin as witnesses. It was simple, but they believed it was enough. Marriage, however, is a different journey. At first, it was small things. Samantha stopped laughing. She'd come home from work and sit in silence, claiming to be tired, stressed. When Evans asked what was wrong, she shrugged. When he tried to plan dates, she wasn't in the mood. Nights found her facing the wall in bed. Evans blamed work pressure. He gave her space, brought flowers on Fridays, gave back rubs on Sundays, and homemade soup midweek. But the wall between them grew taller. Then came Lillian Monroe. Samantha met Lillian in the hospital. Lillian worked the ER night shift, loud, confident, tattoos down her arms, box braids falling past her shoulders, gold hoops in her ears, and a smile that said, "I don't care what you think." At first, Evans thought Lillian was just a new friend. Stories of funny playlists, work gossip, and haircuts didn't ring alarm bells until they did. Samantha started coming home late, saying she was helping Lillian move or grabbing a drink after work. She disappeared on off days. Her phone always lay face down. She changed her passcode. Evans wasn't jealous, but he wasn't blind. One night he asked her point blank, "Is there something going on with you and Lillian?" She laughed, cold, cutting. "You're paranoid," she said. "You always see things that aren't there." "Is something there?" Evans pressed. "No," she snapped. "I'm tired of defending every friendship. You're suffocating me." That shut him up. From then on, Samantha moved like a ghost, leaving early, coming home late, and speaking less and less. Evans sometimes woke to find her at the kitchen sink, in the dark, staring out the window. "You okay?" he'd whisper. "Just tired," she'd reply. Then she began missing work. Once, then twice, then 3 times in a single week. She told Evans she was depressed, that she needed time off. He urged therapy, offered to cover bills, anything to bring her back. But Samantha wasn't sad. She was done. She stayed only because leaving would be messy. She wasn't ready to tell her parents she'd fallen for a woman. She couldn't face the church, the whispers, the shame. She wanted freedom without judgment. And Lillian had a plan. The affair began quietly. Few drinks, soft laughter, a lingering touch. But when lines blurred, there was no going back. Samantha was in love, with Lillian, with the fire, and freedom she'd never felt with Evans. But love often carries a price. Samantha feared what breaking free would cost. Disownment by her parents, whispered gossip at church, the destruction of the life she'd publicly built. And then there was Evans. Gentle, patient, loyal. He'd never raised his voice. She knew he'd never understand. So she stayed. She lied. She waited for the perfect escape, while plotting his ruin. Lillian was impatient. One evening, after wine and soft music, Samantha sat on the floor at Lillian's feet and whispered, "If he were gone, we'd be free." Lillian stopped stroking her hair. "You sure?" Samantha didn't answer. She didn't need to. Lillian had a friend, a quiet, shady guy named Reggie who ran pills and powder out of a barbershop storeroom. Samantha met Reggie behind a Popeyes one night, handed over $500, and received a small black pouch. 3 vials of cocaine, 2 packs of oxycodone, street dust enough to destroy a man's reputation. They sealed it up, then waited for the moment to strike. That moment came on a Thursday afternoon. Evans was getting a haircut at a barbershop on East Boulevard, his car parked outside in the sun. Samantha slipped out on her lunch break, heart pounding, and drove. With trembling hands, she popped the trunk, tucked the pouch under the spare tire, slammed it shut, wiped the latch, and drove back to her shift, as if nothing had happened. That night, over tacos, Samantha smiled at Evans. He said, "Yeah, tacos sound good." He kissed her cheek, said he loved her. She nodded, pretending she didn't feel like trash. The next morning came a single anonymous tip. A man named Logan is selling drugs to kids at the youth center. Check his car. No fingerprints, no hesitation. A week later, Evans was driving home when blue lights ignited behind him. He wasn't speeding, no warrants. He pulled over calmly, thinking maybe it was a taillight, a mistake. When the officer asked him to step out, Evans's mind raced. "Why search my car?" he asked. "We received a tip," the officer replied. He frowned but complied. Leaning on his trunk, he tried to joke, "This seems crazy." Then the officer popped the trunk and held up a plastic bag like a trophy. "Possession with intent to distribute," the officer said. "You have the right to remain silent." Evans's stomach dropped. "That's not mine. I don't know how it got there." But the cuffs were already locking around his wrists. At the station, he sat in stunned silence, scared, humiliated. He was the man who gave second chances, not the man who ruined lives. Then Samantha walked in. Tears stained her cheeks, her hair in a tight bun, her uniform fresh with hospital scrub. "I just found out," she told the detective. "He's been acting strange. I think he's selling stuff at the center." Evans's throat closed. Samantha didn't even look at him. Later, she told the district attorney she'd found pills in his gym bag weeks ago. She said she'd tried to believe he'd changed, but now she wasn't so sure. They offered her a deal, testify, and they'd keep her name off record. She agreed without flinching. The trial was swift and brutal. A black man with a prior drug charge, caught with a bag of products in his trunk. A crying wife on the stand, swearing she never imagined he'd return to that life. The prosecutor painted Evans as a double-dealing snake, mentor by day, dealer by night. Evans sat through it, numb, betrayed by the one person he'd trusted most. Guilty on all counts. 15 years. No parole for the first 12. The judge's gavel dropped like a hammer. Evans didn't look back as he was led away. The only person he needed to see was standing behind him, and she was the one who buried him. He was sent to Caldwell Correctional, a medium-security prison with high walls and low mercy. In his first week, 3 inmates jumped him in the shower. He broke 2 ribs and lost a tooth before the guards intervened. That's when he learned the unspoken rules of prison. Don't trust silence. Don't act soft. Evans kept his head down. He volunteered for janitor duty, befriended old heads who wanted no trouble, found sanctuary in the library and therapy in the gym. Every night, he stared at the ceiling, thinking about Samantha. At first, he wrote her letters. "I still love you. I forgive you. Why won't you write back?" The mailbox stayed empty. By year 2, he stopped writing. Time moved fast when it hurt, and slow when it hurt more. Year 7, the phone rang at 3 a.m. A guard told him his mother had died of a heart attack. He asked, "Can I attend the funeral?" The guard shook his head. "Not on your sentence." Evans couldn't eat. He sat in the corner of his cell till dawn, thinking about the woman who'd believed in him unconditionally. And now he couldn't say goodbye. By year 9, he'd stopped calling anyone. Then, during a game of spades in the yard, an old friend from Charlotte approached. "Heard about Samantha," he said softly. "She's down in Savannah now, with some woman." Lillian. The name hit Evans like a stone to the chest. His calm facade cracked. From that day on, something inside him shifted. He didn't snap or lash out. He just became colder, quieter, more focused. His heart hardened into a blueprint. His days turned into strategy. 15 years passed. When Evans Logan re-emerged at 41, he was unrecognizable. A beard framed his face. His eyes were sharp, his steps deliberate. The guards unlocked the gate that final morning like any other day. "You got someone picking you up?" one asked. Evans shook his head. "I'll find my way." He stepped into the sunlight. No balloons, no hugs. Just air that didn't smell of bleach and steel. In his chest lay purpose, not freedom. 15 years of one question. Why? He was ready to find the answer. With $1,200 saved from janitor work, he rented a room on the west side and bought a burner phone. He didn't want to rebuild. He wanted truth. An old friend mentioned Samantha had vanished. People wouldn't talk about her, like she'd evaporated from Charlotte. Desperate, Evans hired a private investigator, Victor, an ex-cop turned PI. He gave Victor Samantha Logan's name. She lied on me. I just want to know where she is. 2 weeks later, Victor returned with a file. She now went by Samantha Monroe. She'd moved to Savannah 7 years ago, married to Lillian, a nurse manager at Memorial Health. They owned a house in a nice neighborhood. Then Victor pulled out a grainy photo. Samantha walking hand in hand with a 7-year-old boy. Big eyes, crooked smile. They'd used IVF, a donor in Atlanta. The trail was clean. Evans stared at the photo, rage mixing with heartbreak. That night, he scrolled Lillian's Facebook. Flashy clips of her mobile health clinics, pride shining through every selfie. Samantha's page was private, but tagged photos told the same story. Laughter, baby showers, brunches. Then he found the comment that cracked the case. A mutual friend under an old photo wrote, "Can't believe she'd go that far over what was just a one-night thing." Evans put the pieces together. Samantha had heard rumors, maybe a coworker hug, maybe something more. Instead of asking him, she chose revenge. It was a warm Sunday afternoon in Savannah. Kids rode bikes, sprinklers tickled lawns. But Evans Logan walked a different path. His hands were in his pockets. He felt every sound, the bark of a dog, a wind chime's soft ring. He kept walking, one step at a time, until he reached their house on 28th Street. White roses bloomed in front. A lawn chair waited under an oak. Wind chimes tinkled near the porch. He knocked once. The door creaked open. Lillian Monroe stood there, tank top and sweatpants, braids wrapped in a scarf. She blinked at him. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her eyes widened as she recognized him. Behind her, Samantha appeared, holding a glass of lemonade. The glass slipped from her fingers and shattered at Evans's feet. "Evans," she whispered. He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. 15 years of anger and grief made it something else. Lillian shifted toward her phone on the entry table. Evans reached into his jacket and pulled out a Glock 9mm, matte black, spotless. "Don't," he said quietly. "Sit down." In the living room, Samantha trembled. Lillian sat stiff as a board. "You lied on me," Evans said to Samantha, voice low but cutting. "You planted drugs in my car. You told the world I was poison." "For what?" Samantha's lips quivered. "I don't know," Evans answered, voice sharp. "I thought you were cheating," she cried. "I thought it was the only way out. I couldn't live a lie." "You didn't lose anything," he said coldly. "You gained everything. House, kid, new name, while I buried my mother from a prison phone." Lillian opened her mouth, then closed it. Evans raised the gun. 2 shots rang out. The first struck Samantha in the chest. The second tore through her throat. Blood pooled beneath her as Lillian fell sideways, twitching, gasping for air. Samantha's scream filled the house. She tried to crawl away. Evans walked toward her, slow, like someone walking through rain they've already accepted. "Please, Evans," she whimpered. He looked down at her, eyes empty. "You swore to tell the truth," he said, and fired once more. Then Evans Logan did something no one expected. He drove himself to the nearest police station. No hoodie, no disguise, just a man in a plain T-shirt. He walked in, approached the front desk, and said calmly, "I killed 2 people. Not sorry." "No." He placed the Glock on the counter, slide locked, barrel empty, safety on. When detectives first interviewed him, he sat still, and answered questions like he was ordering lunch. When they asked why, he leaned forward, looked them dead in the eye, and said, "She lied. She stole 15 years of my life. She walked free, happy, while I sat in a cage. What was I supposed to do?" His confession was uploaded into evidence that very night. Back in Savannah, the aftermath was hushed. The little boy, Samantha's son, went to live with Lillian's sister in Atlanta. Samantha's family went silent. No statements, no funeral, nothing. In court, Evans didn't cry or beg. He stood as straight and still as he had on his first day in prison. The sentence came down hard. Life without parole. The judge's gavel echoed, too late for justice to mean anything. Now, behind bars again, Evans Logan wakes up to a different silence. Same concrete walls, same clank of keys. But this time, he isn't confused. He knows what he is. He reads, writes, sits in the yard with a stillness that unnerves the guards. He doesn't fight or argue. He's not angry anymore, because anger comes from expectation, and Evans stopped expecting peace a long time ago. So what do you think? Was Evans Logan a cold-blooded killer, or a man pushed over the edge by the only person he ever trusted? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story gripped you the way it gripped us, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe to True Crime Intel for more true crime tales that haunt long after the credits roll. Because some stories don't fade, they echo.